We know his stance on Ukraine. We know his stance on China. We don't know his stance, actually, not so much at least, on Afghanistan. You said that he did not want, he thought that the Afghan war was an interminable war and that it should end. That much we knew. Well, I think the first thing is the economy. We haven't got a grip on the economy. That's our fault. That's the fault of governments. And the two governments today have been in power most of that time. Now, I mean, they've also had to work against, difficult circumstances. I appreciate, I understand that. But at the same time, they could have made a much better job of the economy than they did. Some people, while the Deputy Prime Minister of Pakistan says there's no fixed view on banning the PTI. Others, the Information Minister says that's our goal. I mean, who speaks for the government and what is the policy? I don't know, frankly. But you see, the economy is what really matters. And as far as the economy is concerned, we have agreed to IMF terms and conditions. But we have to come up with $38 billion this year.
Watch Federal Post. Bold and independent. Hello and Assalamu alaikum. This is Hassan Zafar with program Talking Politics. I'm going to be joined by Mr. Zafar Hilaly. Hilaly Saab is a former diplomat and he's joining me via Skype. Hilaly Saab, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
So, as I said in my opening remarks, it is most likely that Donald Trump will be coming back in the Oval Office. And how do we see the world changing and the impact of it on Pakistan, the US policy? Do you think there is going to be any significant change in the US policy regarding Pakistan with Donald Trump coming back?
US policy changes whenever the president takes an interest in that particular country. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, if Trump is preoccupied with Ukraine and Israel and whatever, China, and doesn't want to give too much time to Pakistan, then the State Department and the others will continue to, so to speak, hog policy making. And I don't think we'll see too much of a change. But if Trump is interested in Pakistan, if Trump is interested in that particular area and wanting the Americans to engage constructively and positively, I think he would not have certainly done what many people suspect happened here, and that is the regime change took place at the initiative of the United States. Out of the blue, the word came there was going to be a vote of no confidence. And it was very clear that it came after Imran Khan had said absolutely not to American bases in Pakistan, to American drones in Pakistan. And after that, I think the story unraveled as it has today.
Yes, and then the story,
I think that the United
Yes, the story is very known to everybody what happened after that, but we are more interested in trying to figure out what happens after he comes back, because we have seen a significant change in the American policy after Joe Biden came into office, and the withdrawal of the US troops from Afghanistan, which is what Donald Trump did not want when he was the president. So when he comes back, and so much has happened during these 4 years, do you think he is going to make any changes in the policy of regarding Afghanistan and Pakistan?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I wish I could say that I could forecast what Trump is doing with any degree of certainty. I don't know. We know his stance on Ukraine. We know his stance on China. We don't know his stance, actually, not so much at least, on Afghanistan. You said that he did not want, he thought that the Afghan war was an interminable war and that it should end. That much we knew. Now, the deal that was struck on the withdrawal of US forces with the Taliban was a deal which, as it turns out, has unleashed the terror groups within Afghanistan, and one in particular against Pakistan. A United Nations monitoring body has said that they are responsible for the terrorism in Pakistan. That's a UN body. This is not Pakistan saying so, or a partial person. This is an impartial observer making their statement. Now, if you start destabilizing Pakistan, I don't see how you get anywhere with the region. How does it help the region? How does it help United States policy? Because you have India. Well, really? I mean, if that happens, then you will have destabilization between India and China. Do you want that? Do you want Pakistan to become weak and unstable? I really don't understand that with the United States having invested as much as they did in men and money in Afghanistan, to have come out with a deal which has unleashed terror groups on the subcontinent.
So at present, if it's not the United States policy to make Pakistan weak and unstable, what is keeping Pakistan weak and unstable?
Well, I think the first thing is the economy. We haven't got a grip on the economy. That's our fault. That's the fault of governments. And the two governments today have been in power most of that time. Now, I mean, they've also had to work against, difficult circumstances. I appreciate, I understand that. But at the same time, they could have made a much better job of the economy than they did. I mean, quite frankly, what is economic planning? It's to live within your means, just like you and I try and do. And you and I both know that if you live beyond your means, then you get into trouble. So politicians, they have these exaggerated notions. What the people want is good, honest government. And you can't, and they haven't got it in Pakistan, sadly, for a long time.
But it is easy for the government to shift the blame on other players, namely the IMF. They are pushing very hard on them to take certain steps to increase taxes and all that. So that is the story which our politicians tell us all the time.
Well, yes, certainly. I think the conditions that the IMF impose on governments somehow leads to a revolution. There have been how many destabilized governments as a result of an IMF deal? Dozens of them. I think you see what happened in, I don't know if it was in Kenya. Look, the fact of the matter is that when economy which needs nursing, you can't have immediate surgical treatment and operations and think that people won't react. They will react. I mean, even the price of electricity goes up 3-fold, 4-fold, 15-fold. Of course it will do. Now, the people who say that you please place more for your electricity, well, damn it, they don't have the money to do it, the wherewithal to do it. Is that helping somebody?
Hilaly Saab, nothing seems to be helping anyone, and we have this Finch report in the last couple of days. It's being discussed very widely, and the report suggests that this government is going to last only 18 months, and if that is the message sent out, it is likely to have even more negative impact on the economy and the entire system. And the report is also suggesting that there is a likely public uprising against the price hike that we are experiencing. So putting these two things together, so what are we doing at the moment? We are sitting with our fingers crossed, waiting for something to happen.
Well, you see, I mean, the fact of the matter is that the public don't seem to think that their leaders, and by that I mean the political parties, they don't seem to think that they are behaving in a fashion that suggests that they are willing to share the burden with the people. It seems that the middle class is being, hammered. And it seems that they are the people who are supposed to take the blame, whereas the others don't seem to get it. Look, have you ever heard of a non-filer status? Can you imagine in a country which have people who don't feel tax, or don't pay tax, and it's recognized as such? I thought everybody had to pay tax. You and I mean, in the whole world, everybody has to pay tax. Here you have a situation where you don't need to pay tax. Of course it's going to cause problems. 700,000 Pakistanis left last year. They went away, engineers, doctors, IT specialists, 700,000 of them.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
these are potential taxpayers. Now, if they leave the country, then who's going to pay the taxes for your stuff to work, for health, education, whatever? We have the highest number of children out of school in the world. Can you believe that? In the world. So, I mean, what I'm trying to simply say is these are facts that which stare you in the face. And are you going to get a grip on things or not? I mean, listen, the people aren't convinced. Yeah.
It's very clear that the government doesn't seem to have any grip on these issues, the economy or even on in the political arena, if you allow me to say, because we have seen in the last few weeks the kind of developments that have taken place, the Supreme Court judgment on reserved seats and that case, and then the appointment of ad hoc judges in the Supreme Court. Two of those gentlemen refused to be appointed. That kind of thing, and the government is again signaling that they want to ban PTI. So we have that kind of situation. So both economic situation and the political situation do not seem to be really, really good. That is where we are.
Yes, I think your observation is very correct. It's uncertain. Some people, while the Deputy Prime Minister of Pakistan says there's no fixed view on banning the PTI. Others, the Information Minister says that's our goal. I mean, who speaks for the government and what is the policy? I don't know, frankly. But you see, the economy is what really matters. And as far as the economy is concerned, we have agreed to IMF terms and conditions. But we have to come up with $38 billion this year. Where the hell are we going to come up with? How? The cost of electricity has gone up 15-fold. What more are you going to put up?
Yes, and on the
I mean, frankly,
we have to pay about 600 billion rupees to the Chinese companies, and there is talk about this phase 2 of the CPAC, and we have very credible sources telling us that this is not at all a second phase of the CPAC. The Chinese are here to conduct the audit for the first phase. Where has all that money gone and the way it has been spent? So CPAC, which is almost a decade old now, it seems to be a liability rather than, as it was being said, it's going to be a game changer.
Yes, but you see, the Chinese came across with a proposal that they could produce they could produce X amount of electricity. And we said, fine. But they said, but you don't have the ability to use it. So if we produce so much and you don't have the ability to use it, what's the point of setting up machinery geared to that purpose? So they said, well, we will give you a guarantee. Whatever you produce, we promise to buy. Well, then if you promise to buy it and you don't have use for it, what is the point of having it? And that's what it is, basically. They have guaranteed 17% profit on electricity, for example. I mean, this is not one government. These are all governments that have come. Why did you have to do that when you don't know how you're going to use it? When your transmission losses, which is basically another word for theft, is so big that it can't be supported. You see, everybody knows this. Why didn't you do something earlier? And the Chinese, I mean, quite frankly, if they want to help Pakistan, they've got to bloody well make sure that they can't demand everything at the same time. Yes, we made a promise that we cannot keep. Yes, to that extent, we are wrong. But now if you're a friend and you want to help us out of trouble, you've got to take it easy. You've got to put it off, and you've got to postpone payments, reduce payments, and gradually, hopefully, then pay whatever we use. But to demand it immediately and to shut down and go away or finger point or whatever under compensation, it's not going to work.
I cannot find myself really convinced with the idea that people want to help us. They want to do business with us. I would like to put it that way, be that Saudis, be those Chinese or the Americans or any other country. They are here to do business. They are not interested in our problems. That's how I like to think about it. So this idea that the Chinese want to help us, you think that that is really true? Because they are investing money and they want their money back from us.
Well, the Chinese took us at our word, saying that we needed electricity. They said we can offer you this much at this price, and you are a risky market, so we want some incentive. Fine. We said yes. Well, why did we say yes? When you had no idea whether you could use all the electricity. I don't blame the Chinese. They came to do business. They got an agreement. They congratulated themselves and they left. And then they find out later on that there are line losses, there are this and that, and you can't meet your. So, what are we to make of them? They're disappointed. And sometimes when they see who spends money how, they want to know why, for instance, the United States is very key. The IMF doesn't want the Chinese debt to be addressed. They want their debt to be addressed. Makes sense, yes. But then the Chinese say, well, we've been lending you for so long and we haven't been paid. So how about giving us a share?
So you think that the IMF worry is well founded about Pakistan's dealing with China, because if we are accumulating this debt, how shall we pay their money back? So IMF is not wrong in showing their worry about it.
No, they're not wrong. Absolutely not wrong. They have an obligation to the world, to whoever their creditors are. Actually, every nation is an IMF member, so we are all creditors, including Pakistan. They have an obligation to their creditors, so when they lend money, they want to make sure that it can be paid back.
Certainly.
And when they find that you have over borrowed, then they want to be among the top in the queue to get their money back. I understand that. And they're an important institution. Nobody else is coming here to lend money now. Yes. The IMF has come and they have prevented, I think, a default. At least that's what we say. That's what they say.
Why do we paint the IMF as the devil in this whole scenario? Whereas
they became, yes, you're right.
For our own making.
You're right. It is of our own making. But what we think now is that having got into this trouble, then it's important how you milk a cow. I mean, you don't just grab its udders and start pulling and pulling and pulling till the cow, dies of exhaustion. Yes. You start milking it in the way that it is. You should start milking in a way that it will be alive. It can give milk. It will survive, and it will perform a useful function. Now, the IMF comes and says, raise your fuel prices by 500%. What are you supposed to do? The industry will come to a halt. If they say electricity 4 times as much.
Hilaly Saab, now the IMF have asked us to impose the wealth tax on the big agriculturalists. Do you think that that's really going to help the economy, Pakistani economy, if we collect taxes from the wealthy landowners?
Absolutely, it will help. Absolutely, they must tax the wealth. Why should anybody be exempt from taxation? Just because they have so many representatives in parliament? Of course, they should be taxed. Everybody should be taxed. There should not be a single person who is not taxed. Well, of course, except for the 40% below the poverty line, you can't expect anything from them. But everybody else should be taxed. Why shouldn't they be taxed? Why should sugar mill owners get certain subsidies? I mean, we know who they are. They're very influential, powerful.
Sadly, we know that those 40% who are below the poverty line squeezed like anything. And one more thing I'm sure you know about it, the present government is going to have another 10 years of contract with the IPPs on the same terms as before. There is going to be they are going to pay the capacity charges and they are going to pay in dollars. It doesn't seem to be ending anytime.
I can't believe that, Hassan. I can't believe that, frankly. And if that is happening, then the first thing is, do they expect to be paid? The people who are signing these deals. Well, tell us how they expect to be paid. Because if we can pay them, fine. Who would object? But we've shown we can't pay. This is a circular debt that's getting more and more. How can you do something which you know it won't work?
No, it won't work because, as you rightly pointed out in the beginning, our transmission lines have a capacity of 36,000 megawatts. And we are producing 45,000 megawatts, and certainly those 9,000 megawatts are surplus. We cannot use that. So why are we renewing those contracts for those power producers which we cannot use at all? This is something that nobody can understand and nobody can justify. And in the midst of all, we blame.
Yes, you're right, Hassan. I think you should have one of their financial whiz kids who tells us how 2 and 2 make 5. Maybe he'll explain it to you.
Maybe. So, going back to the question of the American politics, it has nothing to do with Pakistan, as we understand that everything is of our own making. So any change in the American office, presidential office, is not going to have any significant change unless we decide to do something for ourselves.
Well, you see, American interests and Pakistan interests, in my view, do not synchronize, or as much as people expect them to be. For example, there is the issue of the nuclear, our nuclear status. Who doesn't know that the Indians are opposed to it? Who doesn't know that the Israelis feel frightened at the prospect of a Muslim nuclear power? And who can say with any surety that they like that position to change? So, and the United States is an ally. The United States and Israel are not allies. One is part of the other. And as far as India is concerned, we are sick of hearing what a great, important, and strategic ally India is, and how happy the United States is that they see eye to eye. Well, they see eye to eye only in terms of, I'm sorry to say, Pakistan in the eyes of India, weak Pakistan is exactly what they want. And the United States is not going to come and lavish money on us unless there is a quid pro quo. And that may be in its interest, but it's certainly not in ours. So I think we should have a good relationship, a balanced, stable relationship, but we shouldn't hope for the moon.
Yes. Well, Alisab, I remember the last time we spoke, you said that we are treading a very tight rope between the United States and China in terms of trying to balance our relationship between these two countries. Do you think a time is soon arriving where we will have to make this hard choice which way we want to go? We will have to pick sides very, very clearly, notwithstanding the Ukraine situation, because if China is so close to Russia.
Well, I don't think that we can be forced into, we should not be forced or be goaded or provoked into taking a position. I think that the United States is the number one importer of a lot of Pakistani products, especially textiles. We have a good relationship. We've had a decent relationship. We've disagreed, yes, and sometimes other countries have taken a higher priority in Europe. Yet we have managed to keep this relationship going. As far as China is concerned, let me tell you, I don't think that the Chinese want us to have a scrap with the United States. The Chinese do not benefit by having instability in Pakistan or in the subcontinent. The Chinese are interested in their exports. They're interested in having their expansion. They are not yet ready to take on, it can take on China. There's another 10, 15 years before they feel they can do that. So I don't really think they are pushing us into either with us or against us position. That's not their diplomacy. And that's more associated with American diplomacy.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hilaly Saab. Thank you very much for your time today. And thank you very much for watching. Take your leave.